Disclaimer. Twigs Cafe Radio and TwigsCafeRadio.com and its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions, statements, or claims made by the talk show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of the station.
And this is TruthSeekers News. It is a journal for the seekers, and this is our very first show. And I'd like to welcome Lou Jasikoff, who is
hey, Lori.
co-helping.
So what do you got going on here? Let's first of all, folks, this is the first show, Truth Seekers, and folks can call in 570-836-2920. You can leave us a message at 570-836-4771. TwigsCafeRadio@gmail.com if you wanted to leave us a email there, and they could send us some information. But Lori, this is. Who knows where this is going to go, but it is Truth Seekers, and it's going to be a show that we're going to invite anybody to come on and talk about with whatever's on their mind. And it could have anything to do from the universe to paranormal to conspiracy theories or whatever.
Spirituality, anything at all. Anything that you want to talk about. I had written a little thing, and it was supposed to come across so wonderfully poetic.
Okay. You're doing good. You're doing good.
But, and the questions that we ask sometimes are like, what is our place here on Earth? And is everything that we see all that there is? So we wanted to get out there to some of these stories that are out on the news that I don't know interest me. I don't know.
There's so much out there, and originally I think you had some individuals lined up for a show. And
we still do. It just we are coming we're doing things a little bit differently. We decided to go live, and I haven't actually gotten sick yet, so I'm all right. I'm all right. I'll have to write that cheat sheet, Lou.
That's okay. Yeah. I was still texting here, and I was still because a couple folks were already calling in, and they want to get some information about who's going to be on air with us and everything else. And today is Vince Smith is going to join us, and he has willpowercomic.com. He writes comics, and he's also interested in the flat Earth theory, and that's something that. You don't hear a whole bunch of people talking about. When they do, they're sometimes pigeonholed, and people just want to dismiss what they're talking about. But he's starting another whole project, a new project, as I understand it. And part of that project is putting the whole flat Earth theory into a comic. So I think that'll be interesting. But what else you got? Do you got some other stuff right before we bring Vince on?
Before we get him on.
Yeah.
Well, again, let me go over the phone numbers again. Please call in 570-836-2920. Leave a comment at 570-836-4771. Or leave us an email at twigscaferadio@gmail.com.
Now, I think you even have I haven't even looked. I mean, but I believe you do have. Is there a website you have up already, Lori?
Well, actually,
bare bones.
It was very bare bones, but we had a lot of people looking at it, so I had to almost. I put up the under construction page, so I'm hoping to get that up though really fast, especially with the first.
And now you have your first guest on and everything else like that, so you can get up his contact info.
What do you mean my first?
You have
me.
all good stuff. So and who do you have coming on? And then we'll bring Vince on. Who do we have lined up? What's the whole idea of behind Truth Seeker News?
One of the things that I had thought about this and talked with you about it, Lou, was I had on LinkedIn quite a few of the people who I am linked in with are paranormal investigators. Some of them go into even as much as the...
I believe we have one sitting right across the desk.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Holly, I'm really hoping that Holly participates.
Oh, she's actually twisting around. She doesn't want to talk politics, but here you go.
That's
you see,
right.
You want to talk about hunting and ghost hunting. There she is. She'll turn it right around.
But I thought, wouldn't it be interesting just to get some of these people on and hear what they have to say. And
well, I do a lot of traveling, and one of the things that I'm always looking forward to, especially traveling long distance and at night, is listening to Coast to Coast. And Coast to Coast started out as a political show, and I think it started getting a little stale. We're going way back when Art Bell was the originator of Coast to Coast. And it was a 2-hour political show, kind of like Jessica and Friends and Sandy Check. And what happened was they decided to start letting people call in about anything they wanted to call in about. And they started realizing that, people were calling in, not just about the paranormal, but universe, all kinds of different things that are out there. So we're not afraid to listen to other people's points of view, and it's going to be nice to be able to have another forum for folks to come on and talk about what's on their mind. Go ahead.
And Holly, I'm going to put you on the spot. Have you ever had an experience? I think everybody's kind of had that's a strange experience, whether it's, you're a kid, not sure you made it up.
This is my strange experience right here.
With Holly and Lori.
Look at Holly. This is all new. Look at this.
I have had my own personal experience, and I'll have to share that on a segment that's more oriented towards that. But.
Well, we'll interview Holly.
But what happens, and let's be totally frank and honest about all these things, is that when you do some of the things that we do, whether it's in the newspapers or on the radio, and you have a talk show, whether it's political, when we bring up, and I remember even talking about 9/11 all not that long ago, and you were pigeonholed right as some kind of a crazy, or you were branded right off the bat. That you don't know what you're talking about, or, even the Federal Reserve is some kind of conspiracy theory. Well, it's not conspiracy if it proves to be true.
Exactly.
And with that all in mind, I mean, you could look at, you have Kennedy out there, but then you also have the universe. There's so much stuff that I don't know, Laura.
And one of the things that I was supposed to and was going to be my introduction, that was going to be so wonderful, was the fact that we do kind of rearrange our reality to be comfortable. We don't know everything. And science can't explain everything, that sort of thing. And I think we need to have talks like this, the paranormal, the flat Earth people and stuff like that, just to have something else to. Who knows?
I'm not afraid of searching for the truth. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Holly.
Well, there's so many people out there that are like skeptical and stuff about everything, but until they experience something for themselves, there's people that there's no way they're going to change their mind until they have it happen to them. But that doesn't mean that the people who have had experiences of some kind shouldn't be able to share them without being ridiculed or made fun of, or whatever you might want to.
And that has nothing to do with some of the topics that we're going to cover, because some of them are serious, some of them are going to be classified maybe as conspiracy theories. Others are going to be about paranormal and stuff that's unexplained. Correct?
And I think it's serious to whoever's whoever we have on. It's serious to them. So. Yeah. But it is interesting, and it's going to be fun and exciting, and maybe a bit scary. I don't know. It's going to be really fun.
I'm looking forward to having some of the people on that I know you've already been scheduling and talking to. But that all being said, I've always said when something's in the books, I mean, they can't take it away. And this is the first show, and as it turned out. I spoke with Vince, and that's one of the things I had mentioned to him. I said, when we're nationally broadcasting this show, and we're big shots, he can always come back and say, "Hey, Vince Smith was the first one on TruthSeeker News." So with all of that,
or TruthSeekers were the first one to interview the person that knew that the Earth was flat. So
there you go.
That's even better. So with all that, welcome to TruthSeeker News, Vince.
Hey, am I on? Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you great, and as I said, I've had a great conversation with you, and welcome. We're not going to be able to take this back. So when TruthSeeker News and Twigs Cafe Radio is nationally known, you could always say, "Hey, listen, man, I was their first guest."
I was a guinea pig.
You were the guinea pig.
Hey,
That's
we're
right.
starting off with a bang. This is going to be really interesting.
But Laurie will be able to post some of your stuff online, and willpowercomic.com. Let's start off with that, the first 10 minutes before we go to break here. But why don't you give us a little bit of background about you and what you do and what you what your passion is. I'm looking at some of the comics, and it's once again willpowercomic.com. And then after that, we could get into what your plans are about doing a comic book to try to get your theories of the black flat Earth out there.
Yeah. Well, if you like you said, we're going to start this off with a bang, but that's questionable. This will be something we'll talk about later on. That's questionable if we're talking about flat Earth theory. Maybe not a big bang, but something else. But but as far as the comics are concerned, yes, I am what you call an independent comic book creator, writer, artist, and so forth. And all that means is that in the comic world, there are a couple of giant companies, Marvel and DC. There are a couple of other companies out there that you might say can sort of rival that presence, but not quite. They've been around for 60, 70 years. They have created iconic characters that we all know and love. So as far as comics in my life, I'm a child of the 70s, where we still had Saturday morning cartoon shows, which no longer exist now on the ABC channels. There are no more Saturday morning cartoon shows. So
Right.
They've all moved to specialized cable channels. There's nothing like that anymore. But for me, as a child, I could never wake up on time to go to school. But for some reason, on Saturday morning,
Bingo.
6 o'clock sharp, bang, right out of bed, downstairs, the family television, watching cartoons left and right, And the thing that I realized later on, why it became such a passionate source of inspiration for me, is that the cartoons of my day, they taught you good versus bad. There were no gray areas. The anti-hero hadn't been established. The cigar-smoking, cursing hero wasn't around then. My inspirations were things as simple as G.I. Joe and He-Man and all these,
Right.
cartoon shows. Even when you go back to Tom and Jerry and things like that, you had the good guy and the bad guy, and you saw that they had memes like "crime never pays." The good guy always wins. Take a bite out of crime. They had public service announcements that would break in and tell you, only you can stop forest fires. We had I don't know if you remember those.
Yeah.
We had things that would come on Schoolhouse Rock, would teach you how a bill became a law, and how to stop, drop, and roll. At that moment, it was just entertainment. But as I got older, I realized that those things gave a sort of moral compass to that entire generation. That Saturday morning cartoons taught you how to fight for truth, how to dream big, how to do the right thing. And as cartoons became more skewed and more cynical, with like the advent of Beavis and Butthead on MTV, The Simpsons, and the cartoons of today, over the last 20, 30 years, the heroes have become less heroic, and they have become more nasally, more sarcastic, sheepish. They shun away from doing the heroic thing, and that's part of their charm or selling point. And I realized that we have an entire generation of now young adults who are sort of uninspired. And so I set about wanting to cause change and to make something more nostalgic, and hence the creation of the Legend of Willpower.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. And I think with the internet, I mean, you talk about the big comic book companies, but with the internet now, you know, you never know. It can be brought to all over the world.
And Vince, one of the things that I've been saying for a very long period of time, and I've been more in the political realm than anything else, but, you know, when you look at how to get a message out, it is through humor and music. And, I mean, it's you could go on YouTube, and I could post a political, you know, some kind of political saying or an ideology that I want to try to inform or help people to understand. And you know, you get a couple hundred hits, you get maybe a couple thousand hits, and yet when you look at what music does and humor, you're in the millions. So, I mean, what you're doing here and trying to get a message through comic and through humor, I think it goes to exactly what you were saying back in the 70s. You know, this is how we would teach people morals and or have a moral compass and what civics was all about. So I think it's you're definitely onto something. How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing I guess the second run for about 4 years, and it's been an exciting trip. I did dabble in it about 20 years ago when comics were at their high. You're talking about the sales of just one title reaching 250 copies per month, and these are series that they release one each month, and just one title would sell 250,000 copies in 1 month, and the next month it would do the same thing. And I was in their heyday. I was sort of like a groupie who got brought into the comic book studio and allowed to work on a lot of different projects, which allowed me to sort of cut my teeth per se. But I gave it up. I became a graphic designer. I worked in the marketing field for a while, and just as I told you just recently, I decided, let me take it.
Give it a try and give it a try again. Yeah. Well, listen, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, why don't we talk a little bit more about that and how we're going to tie that into Flat Earth. And you are listening to TruthSeekers News at Twigs Cafe Radio at gmail.com. Send us a text or call us at 570-836-2920. Leave us a message and a comment. Let us know how you like this. 570-836-4771. And now you, not to jump right back into it, but I think this is pretty interesting, and I'd love to know how you're going to use this with your with what your the message that you're trying to get out there.
Oh yeah, comics are. I have a unique point of view on comics. First off, and how I want to tie in the whole flat Earth a movement, or I don't know, questioning into this platform. For me, I think. All great cultures have a form of fantasy. And you might think of dragons for Japan and China and maybe England, the Knights of the Round Table, and leprechauns for the Irish, and fairies and things like that. But what I see for the American culture or the American fantasy is the superhero. Mm. And normally what happens when you look at a culture's fantasy, it sort of reflects their social subconscious, sort of like their collective social subconscious or their social identity. And with honor and respect being something great in Japan, the shogun and samurai, these people who led by I guess their chi and their loyalty, something that they represented. But in America, we really believe, whether it's true or not, that one man can make a difference. One man can pull himself up by his bootstraps, take on all the odds, and change the day. And that is what our superheroes are. That's what Superman has become.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you start realizing these characters are sigils for something greater, that they're icons of either a moral belief or stance or some other social dogma that we might employ within our personal lives, you can then shape these moral plays on paper, which comic books are, the struggle between good and evil, light and dark, into a finely tuned message. So, that being said, which I think all the great stories do, if you go back to the great, like Twilight Zone and those great movies, they always had a moral message, and you might be captivated by the entertainment, but just underneath the surface was a message being said. So, how I came exposed to the whole flat Earth theory. First, let me just say this: I don't know if the Earth is flat, but I do know something is strange about the shape and size that we have been taught. I was exposed to it as I heard an interview taking place online, and this gentleman was a flat Earth proponent, and he was talking about the horizon line. And he was talking, as we've all been to the beach, we've all stared off at the sea as it drops off, and it's a perfect line, and it's perfectly straight. But what he said was, no matter how high we rise, the horizon line rises with our line of sight. In other words, it never drops below us. You would think as you attached a weather balloon to your head and it started lifting you up, that the horizon line you saw off in the distance would start to drop from your eye down to your nose, down to your lips, down to your chest, and below your feet as you rose higher and higher and higher. In reality, that doesn't happen. The horizon line continues to rise no matter how high you go up, 20, 30, 40 feet, go to the top of the Empire State Building, you will still look out and you'll still see more land stretching out over to the line of sight, to your eye level. If you go in an airplane, you still see the carpet of clouds running out to a horizon line right at your eye level. We can never seem to get above the horizon line, i.e., the earth never seems to fall from our feet or below our feet. For the common man, okay? And every independent or private balloon, or weather balloon, or rocket that has ever been launched with a camera on it shows the same exact image. Now, when he said this to me, when I heard this, my mind woke up because, I'm an artist. I do commercial illustrations, everything from buildings to websites to comic books. We study perspective. We understand the concepts of foreshortening and foreground and background and, worm's eye view and aerial view to give different dramatic pauses or effects in your illustration. And the horizon line is one thing we study. Mm-hmm. We raise it and lower it to cause height and so forth. But we raise it and lower it in the illustration world. But in reality, it doesn't do that. So, we've all seen superheroes who fly. And when we draw Superman, he's always flying in a clear blue sky. So, but in reality,
and no horizon line. But there, go ahead, Lou.
Yeah, Vince. Before we, Let's just get back to basics first. What is the flat Earth theory? I mean, there'll be people that are listening here, and I think if we're talking about the horizon and horizon lines and these other things, but let's just get back right to the beginning first. What is the flat Earth theory? As I understand it, people that believe in the flat Earth, that the Earth is flat, correct? And there's a firmament and other things. So, so for maybe people that are not familiar with what we're talking about or what you're talking about, flat Earth, what is the flat Earth theory?
Yeah, well, from what I understand, because I'm not an expert, like I said, I've come across this. This is secondhand. I'm learning this as we speak. But from what I understand, the flat Earth has been a cosmology that has been accepted by the ancient world all the way up to maybe even 500 years ago. The concept of the Earth being round or flat has been in question.
Yeah, Galileo.
Yes, but the basic premise is that all cultures basically believed, up until about 500 years ago, for sure or not, is that the Earth was flat. It was a disk, a circular disk, that in the center was the North Pole, and on the outside was the Antarctic ring. It was a wall of ice about 200, 300 feet. I mean, I think it's even miles high, actually. That kept all the water inside. It's like a petri dish, and that the sun and the moon are not millions of miles away, but they are much smaller, about 3,000 miles in width, and about 35,000 miles above the Earth. And they float, I know it sounds wild, but they float like hands of a clock around the face of this disk Earth. And the Earth is basically shaped like a clock, and that the sun and the moon move around like the hands on the hour and the second, or the hour and the minute, and as they move around the face of the Earth, bringing light as it moves around the 12, and it moves around the 1, and it moves around to the 2. The sun lights that localized area, and as it travels around, it keeps perfect precision with the 24-hour day. This is what many have believed, and the truth is, there was no way for them to prove it because we had no vehicles that could go high enough to prove the shape of the Earth until recently. So, of course, if you go out, you look at the shape of the Earth. If no one ever told you it was round, your natural experience would be everywhere you look, it's flat. Water's flat. We know water is flat. We use it as a measuring tool. We don't presume that it bends. We look up into the sky and we see the lights in the sky, but they are not representative of the Earth. So the Earth would be almost like you walk the ballroom floor, and the lights would be like the chandeliers hanging above. And in fact, the greater planets were called wandering stars up until maybe 700-800 years ago. 700-800. We may have named them things, but they were called wandering stars. Mm-hmm. They weren't called planets.
Well, Vince, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So that is basically the flat Earth model.
Let me ask you this question. Within saying that, because I understand the thought process of something is not right, and there's something that who they are, I don't know, and what they're holding back, I don't know either, but there's something that just doesn't line up, and I think everybody knows that. I was watching a program the other day, and this gentleman that was on it said for 10 years in all of his lectures, he would ask the same question. Is everybody happy with their government? Is everybody happy with the way things are going with their life? And he said in the 10 years that he's done this and asked this question, nobody at all has ever raised their hand to say that. Everybody has that feeling that there's something odd. But how, I guess I'm not quite sure how you go from that to flat. And yet, some of the things that are said, like that, like the horizon line, it doesn't curve. You are always, I mean, when that does make me wonder. So, but how do you go from that to flat, I guess is my question.
Yeah, well, you start to pick apart different aspects. One being horizon line never falling. On a ball, it will eventually fall. The Earth is supposed to be, as we are taught, a ball. So with a ball, it has a certain amount of curvature, which means as you go out, as you travel miles out, the Earth will start to naturally curve. So certain things that you see in the horizon should not be visible because it should be lost beyond the curve. Mm-hmm. Certain things like the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty is, I think it's 326 feet above sea level. It can be seen up to 62 miles away. Now, if you're using spherical trigonometry, it would be about 2,074 feet below sea level, or below the line of sight, below the curvature. But yet we can see it 62 miles out.
Oh, and I think that's where some people. I mean, and I know you're never supposed to assume, but I assumed that, like, the Earth was so big and we were so small that curve, like, we just couldn't see that there was a curve yet. Yes. Like, mathematically, is that possible? Like, I don't know how high you would have to go to see.
Exactly. So here's the question. Here's the question: Is the Earth so big that the curvature that should be there mathematically is not present, which means the Earth is bigger than what they're saying? This is why I say I'm not necessarily a flat earther, but I do question the shape of the Earth, because the curvature that's supposed to be in place, which is 8 every mile, the curve should be 8 inches, and it's 8 inches.
Yeah, that's a lot
per mile times itself. Okay, yeah, that's a lot, but you don't see it. Certain things like the gentleman named Marconi. He was the first person to send a radio signal across the Atlantic. It wasn't supposed to be possible because the Earth is curved, and therefore the signal wouldn't make it. But yet it did. It did make it.
Yeah.
And they later said, "Oh, well, it bounced off the ionosphere." That's what happened. They found an excuse for that it bounced off the ionosphere. So my question is this: why have satellites when we can bounce signals off the ionosphere? Here goes another thing.
Yeah.
Here goes another thing. The Earth is spinning on its axis at 1,100 miles per hour, and you don't feel it.
Or if you jump, really, there should be a fraction. You should be back further, even if it's a fraction, and you're not.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
planes
right.
Planes leave. They leave the Earth. They fly. They fly in all directions. They fly in the direction of the spin, but they don't get there faster. They fly in the opposite direction of the spin. It doesn't take them long, right? So either the plane is, we have relativity where everything that's close to the Earth doesn't move.
Okay.
That's why you're here, Lori, is that you can explain these things to us.
Oh, is that it? Okay. All right, well, then I do have a question. Could it be that it's both? Because, if you take the speed of light and everything is at that point in the speed of light, everything is right there because it's supposed to be the fastest or whatever. Could it be both? Couldn't it be round at a slower look and faster if you were going? Because at the speed of light, everything is flat.
Well, that's all. Well,
Is
are
that
you
not-
making my point for me?
No, but but isn't that true?
I would assume, but I don't think the Earth is moving at the speed of light.
But maybe
Light is-
everything is. If everything is, then it would all be perspective. It would be how you were.
I got a question.
I don't know.
Vince, I got
don't
a
know.
question
Sorry.
for you. How about pictures of Earth from space? I've heard that it's always the same picture. Are we actually in space? Do you actually move beyond the firmament? When we see pictures, what are we seeing? I mean,
Yeah. Well, this is the thing that I've always wondered. The NASA, the Apollo missions, and us going to the moon. Okay. We assume the Earth is round because NASA told us. Okay, so in other words, you have to trust the authority, and the authority is NASA. There really are no other countries out in space without NASA or not being under their auspices. So NASA is the controlling body of space, right? So every image basically comes through NASA. China tried to put something out there which was debunked, which shows that they never made it to the moon. Okay, so.
That show is coming up,
Yeah.
Vince. By the way, somewhere down the road, I'm sure. But
Right.
well, that's another whole issue.
So, but Vince, what we're going to do is hold on to that thought, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to have
Talk
you
about the comics, how he's going to
finish that.
Yep.
Well, I'd like to know more about the what he's finish up what you have to talk about. This is Seekers News, and we will be right back. This is Truth Seekers News on Twigs Cafe Radio. Please give us a call at 570-836-2920. Leave a message. Let us know how you like our new show at 570-836-4771. Twigs Cafe Radio at gmail.com. And we are talking with Vince White. And Vince, I want you to finish that up. And then Holly has a question that we were talking about during break, which I have to say is a really good one. So
Sure.
So,
let me put this out as well.
Go ahead.
The books I'm doing that puts comics and flat Earth theory together is called Flat. You can find it on Kickstarter. It's a Kickstarter project I'm trying to put together. You go to Kickstarter.com. It's spelled out just how it sounds. Kickstarter.com. In the search bar, type in Flat, and the comic will pull up. There'll be videos. There's imagery there. So people can start to look at that as well as the show is going on, so they can answer some questions.
What are you looking to? What are you looking to raise, Vince?
I'm just the book. The book is very simple. It's a modest amount. It's only $4,000.
Uh-huh.
I'm covering $4,000. I'm covering the cost of print for the book. I might bring in a colorist for the book. We'll see. But normally I write and illustrate the books myself. There are other publishers within the Powerverse, but that's something separate. Flat, it's something all on its own. I had to create a whole new imprint called Cryptic Comics just to do this book because it's so controversial.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's great, and I'm sure Lori will be able to put this up on the website. And,
Absolutely.
So that'll be there. But I think Lori has some other questions for you, right, Lori?
No, actually, Holly did. And like I said, I think everybody is thinking this. So
Yeah, well, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate, but I'm going to ask. So the question is why would anyone, the NASA or anyone for that matter, any government, anything, do a hoax of that magnitude for this length of time? I mean, what would be the benefit of doing that? And then, of all things, why would you pick round to tell people the Earth is round if it's flat? I mean, if there was a benefit to it, what would it be? Or at least, what do you think it would be?
I think it's twofold. It might even be trifold. But here goes some of the scenarios I could think of. Is that we were in a space race with Russia. We were scared. They had placed Sputnik in orbit, and we wanted to show we could get to the moon. We had several rocket designs. We launched several test rockets. They all failed. We had even the rover or the Eagle models that were supposed to land were not working. They were imbalanced. They were crashing. Okay, so what I think might have happened is we decided to film it on a soundstage. But let me, take. You have to realize what happened. We said we sent 2 astronauts more than, I don't know what, 3 million miles away, something more than that. I don't know how far away the moon is. On live television, in the vacuum of space, the first time, not a second time, not a trial, that they were then going to, that rocket was going to break up into stages, then get into orbit in the moon. It was in the part of that rocket. The part of that rocket was called the orbiter, and then from the orbiter we were going to launch the Eagle. The Eagle broke off from the orbiter, landed on the moon with the rover or the Jeep. Those guys got out, drove around, hit golf clubs, all on live television, live, not recorded, live. Got back into the Eagle, took off. Someone recorded the takeoff from the moon. Okay, I don't know who that was, but they recorded the takeoff of the Eagle from the moon, went back into orbit, linked back up with the orbiter. They docked in orbit around the moon, and I'm prior Navy. I've done undersea, underway refueling. Docking with another vessel is very difficult, especially if you're doing it in the vacuum of space. You can't be a centimeter off because it would rush in and implode the entire vessel. Okay, but they docked in orbit, transferred from the Eagle into the orbiter. From the orbiter, they got into the capsule, and that little capsule had enough fuel to make it from the moon back to Earth. They found Earth in its orbit around the sun, was able to break through our atmosphere, land in the ocean, and get out and say, "Hey, we did it." Now we did that. We did that 50 years ago, and never did it since.
So how does this? And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but this and.
Well, it's answering. I'm going to answer.
Okay, sorry.
At first, I just have to lay this out. All the blueprints from all the rockets, from the Eagle, have all been lost. All the telemetry has all been lost. All the data has all been lost. I think what we did was we faked it to beat Russia, and we faked a picture of it around Earth, thinking that's the shape that it was. And when we're actually able to do it years later, or get high enough years later, we realize, oh crap!
but doesn't NASA that's a theory, and I'm rolling with that theory with you. But doesn't other countries have the ability? No. Maybe not the Hubble and all the things that NASA has, but don't they have some type of satellites
supposedly
out there?
We're in space with with Russia right now with the space station. So
if we can figure this out, and we're just 3-4 people here on the Russia can't figure this out, or
is it like
Japan can't?
Yeah, or are they just taking what we say and running with it?
Yeah. So that's when you have to question. No other country has figured this out. We say that we built a space station, okay? I don't know if you've ever seen the images of the space station, but you can still see the Earth underneath it. It seems like it's relatively close, okay? That it just might be in high orbit, but it's not necessarily in space. But that being said, if we built it, the space shuttle is what brought the parts up there, okay? The space shuttle docks with it all the time. Now, if the space shuttle is docking with the ISS and it's outside the full grasp of the Earth's gravity, why don't they just take the shuttle over to the moon in the last 50 years? We have never gone back.
Yeah.
You would think a nice jump, just an easy jump to go from the space station to the moon. Yet we're talking about going to Mars, where it would be much more feasible to build a space station on the moon first and use that as a launching point to go to Mars.
Well, if we did it so easy 50 years ago, yeah.
And Vince,
Yeah,
and Vince,
exactly.
I just got an email from a listener that says the elites owe allegiance to no country, and they want the masses to accept the heliocentric model.
Exactly. And heliocentric means sun-centered, which is a form of sun worship. Once you start realizing how powerful sun worship is and how far it goes back within our secret societies and so forth, you start to then, well, why did we switch our cosmology from geocentric, earth-centered, to sun-centered? And then you start to realize once you do that, here's the second prong of why they might have done that, is that once you say the Earth is a ball and that it's not a prime material plane that stretches on forever, ever, or whatever, and that all the other planes exist upon it or underneath it, that it is just a dot in a cloud of cosmic dust, that it is insignificant, then it reduces mankind to an insignificant state, that you yourself are insignificant, that you have no power over the powers that are over you, because you are not even cosmic dust. You are something small that exists on cosmic dust. So once you accept the globe theory, you have reduced your presence, your essence, to a mistake, that you were birthed from nothingness and you will end in nothingness, and your whole existence, even your world, is insignificant. Now, if you don't want to mind control the masses, or if you want to mind control the masses, that is a perfect message.
Well, and it is, but to what end? Are we still waiting to see what the end of that is? And I do have to say something here about the sun worship. If you go back and you look at the cultures that, if you want to say sun worship, it was not a bad, horrible thing. You make it kind of sound like, oh, well, then we're worshiping the sun, and it was really more how to live. When the sun rose, when you work, and when it went down, you went to sleep, and when the seasons came and stuff like that. So I understand what you're saying, but to what end? Like, there's got to be. Everybody can't be in on it. If you are a scientist,
I think that's what probably the biggest question, Vince, is that the amount of people that that adhere to the flat Earth science, and how come there's when you say to what end, what is anybody getting out of this? Now, like I said, we just had a texter that said the elites owe allegiance to no one, but what is the end game then? Yeah. Except for the fact that when he just said that, if you
but to control us
for what?
For what? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This is a train that links every cart. It's unfair to the argument to discuss one subject and find it puzzling and discard it. Once you start attaching each puzzling train cart to another, you create this train that doesn't seem to make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense, and I agree with that.
And now here's a. Well, I said, look, it really subjugates the masses when you tell them that they're insignificant.
Yeah.
We know. We've seen crowdthink. We've seen it microscopic. We've seen it macroscopic. We've seen it when someone's just laying on the sidewalk. If no one pays attention, the whole crowd basically pays no attention. If you tell the entire world that your dot is spinning around, some other dot in a cloud, then the mind trick there is amazing. And we just don't know what the mind can do. Being an ex-athlete, what I realized is that playing football and so forth in school is what I realized how powerful visualization is. And once you can visualize something, it makes it that much easier to achieve it. Like, if I can picture myself running through the secondary and into the field goal area or touchdown area, I pretty much can do it. Mm-hmm. If I can picture me snatching a penny out of someone's hand, I can do it. the moment that you take that image away from mankind, you really stifle him.
Well, and that goes into a lot of other. You're right.
Hey,
you're
Vince,
right.
I have a question for you too, and not knowing really, and not studying the flat Earth science. Is there space then, or is it just the Earth? Is there a space outside of Earth?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because we already talked about NASA and how basically improbable it might be that they went to the moon. Here are some other things. If the sun is as large as they say it is, I think, like you said, 100% of the sun or something like that.
Right.
And as hot as it is, okay, I think Venus and Mercury are before us. We're the third planet out. We can go out and feel the heat of the sun on our neck. It can cause forest fires, okay? The first two planets just must be engulfed in flames, but they're not, okay? We say we have satellites in the thermosphere, which is the hottest level of our atmosphere. The satellites themselves should be melted. The moon glows at night. The astronauts were walking on just a plain dirt background. It wasn't glowing. And in fact, the radiation and the heat from the sun should have melted them. Okay? They were in pressurized suits, but their suits had pleats and folds in it, and they were running around pretty gingerly. Once you start looking at what you've been told, we only know what we've been told. You realize you don't know where you are. You have no idea of where you are, and where you are is so important, because it leads to the other questions of who, what, when, and where. Oh, well, take her out.
Hey, Vince, I got to tell you, I probably have more questions now than when you came on.
Absolutely.
And our time is about up, Laura.
Yeah,
I can't believe
I
it.
can't
We didn't
either.
know what
We weren't
were
sure
going to
we'd
talk
have
about.
enough.
We weren't sure that we. and now I don't even think we barely touched on what we could have been talking. Now I know why Coast to Coast is 4 hours, Vince, and just not an hour long. But we only got like 2 minutes left here. I just want to get back to let folks know what Flat is. Certainly, they can go to Kickstarter, Flat at Kickstarter.com, and Flat is going to be a comic magazine, right? And you're going to somehow you're going to tie this all in and try to explain the flat Earth Earth science through your comics.
Got to get the Flat book. Support the project. This is just for the creation of the book. It's going to be printed. It's about a superhero who gains the ability to fly high enough to see the shape of the Earth for himself. And once he realizes it's not the shape that he's been told, he starts to try and spread this information, which ultimately makes him the enemy of the state. The Flat Earth map, if you're wondering how it really looks, it is the UN map. The UN uses the Flat Earth map as their map.
Yeah.
The outer rings of the reefs are the ice walls. All the world's a stage, breaking the glass ceiling. They're telling you every day.
Yeah. Well, we can agree. We can certainly agree on the fact that there is that things just don't add up. That there is something strange, and we're hoping that this is the first show, and you are our first guest in discovering what that is.
Absolutely. Hey, Vince, absolutely, man. And well, we'll look forward to seeing that magazine. You're going to get it up on the website, Lori. And,
I'll get everything, yeah.
And I think it's really pretty cool. So thanks for taking the time today, Vince. And
come back,
appreciate
please.
it. Yeah, I think, Lori, now you see, now he's piqued my interest already. I can't even imagine where this show is going to go, because with all the great guests you have lined up, Lori, and all these different things, man, and each week I'm going to go home. I'm glad today is like my Friday, Vince. I think I'm going to have to go home and have a beer and just sit back and chill. Let me tell you.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. And once again, Kickstarter.com, Flat. Get the book, get the comic, get the card game. It's all there.
All right,
man.
Wonderful.
Thanks so much for coming on, Lori. I got to tell you, man, that was great. I had no idea where this is going to go.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
isn't it?
this might have to be a little bit longer. Now I understand why, like Coast to Coast. I mean, they're on for 4 or 5 hours every night, and I'm thinking, oh my God, how do they do this? But
do it. It
like
goes
this
so
could have
fast.
we could have done another hour, 2 hours on this,
Easy.
but no problem. So
Easy.
somewhere
And-
down the road, we'll look at it.
Yeah, and Lou, thank you for
Oh, thank
kicking
you,
in when
Lori. Oh man,
when I do my,
hey, this is your thought process, and
Holly,
all good. Holly,
Did
loved
he
it.
answer the question? Did he?
I
answer
think
it?
so. I mean, at least I asked for what he thought.
What
so.
he thought? Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought.
Holly, I
pretty
think
interesting.
this is going to be fun.
I think so, too.
I mean, who knows what we're going to be talking about?
Yeah.
And next week, what do you got? Who do
Next
you got
week
going on?
we
I know it's
have Melissa Stratton,
Yeah,
and
what-
she is an astrologer.
and what
I'm gonna
what does
tell
that
you,
mean?
She does the birth chart readings. But
Really?
I'm going to tell you what, when you really sit down and look at it, you think, well, I'm a Taurus. Somebody else born in May might be
I'm
a
a
Taurus,
Leo.
and you go, well, they're not anything like me.
I'm the king, the
There you
Lion
go.
King.
It really is a snapshot of the sky right above you. It really is a snapshot, and when you start looking at where everything lays and what it agrees with, it
This is going
does
to be,
tell your
This
personality.
is going to be good.
It
Good
is going to
stuff.
be
And you have a
great.
drummer or something too, don't you? Or is that a
Maya's
different
going to
show?
come on. That's going to come a little bit later.
Okay.
When we decided to go live, we had to push
change-
some things back and move people around. Melissa was going to be first, but we had Vince on. He was great.
Well, finish it up, man.
All right. Well, this was I'm going to call it episode. What would it be? Show one of
Episode
Truth.
one,
There you
yeah.
go. Truth Seekers News. And thank you very much for joining us.